Well, hello everybody. I am Louise Eddington, the Cosmic Owl with Cosmic Owl Astrology, and this is a report taking you through the rest of Friday the 17th through the weekend. Uh, Interesting times. I don't know about you with all this kind of craziness that's happening. Sleep is kind of strange and patterns are all over the place. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to look at what we have coming up. All right. So this will take us through the 19th. Okay. And we are on Salt Lake City time. So if anybody wants to convert to their own time, you can use World Time Buddy, put in Salt Lake City and your own time zone, your own city, and you will find out where it is in your own. So as I am recording, the moon has just gone into Pisces and will be in Pisces for the weekend, pretty much, I think. Yep. The moon will go into Aries at 12:59 a.m. on Monday. So this does take us through the weekend. And so the moon is going in Pisces. That's the dreamy, more emotional, more fluid, more escapey, more kind of feeling a little bit victim-y as well. And with all the stuff that's going on at the moment, yeah. Anyway, so I've been talking to my members, and check out my membership below if you're not a member already, about this grand trine, which is beginning to separate now. Mercury still has to go and aspect Mars, but I want to talk about a big part of this. So Venus is the archetypal feminine, or a day energy, night energy, if you look at my book, and Mars is the archetypal male energy. They're both in air signs and they are in a trine aspect, or coming up to, and they are connected in the middle by Mercury, and also going to this Juno asteroid over here. So, but I want to speak particularly about the Venus and Mars being drawn together by Mercury in communication to Juno, which is really the sacred marriage to each other. So we're being pulled together, and it's all in this beautiful kite aspect. We've got the triangle here and then going to Mercury. We've also got Vesta over here, which is focus and commitment, and it's the sacred flame. And we've got health and hygiene over here. So there's a lot being drawn together in this, and by Mercury, who is actually kind of a bit of a bridge between worlds anyway, is the closest planet to our sun, and kind of bridges the core of the universe to all the other planets. And he's kind of the non-binary of the zodiac as well. So he's pulling everything together so that we can really begin to bring into balance. So I don't want to talk loads about that because I've talked to my members a lot about it and I want to move ahead. But we also have the Sun sextile to Ceres and square to Pallas Athena, all this at 28 degrees, if you can see. Now, the Pallas Athena is the cosmic owl and she's the strategist. So we might be seeing, well, it's a square. So we've got a bit of tension here about who we are and how we're moving forward in all these strange times. And Ceres is this a nice aspect to Ceres, though. And she is the great mother who rules kind of the natural cycles of the earth, the harvest and the spring and the fall and the winter, all the seasons. And she also represents grief and forgiveness in the horoscope. So, Ceres in Aquarius, we've got this social distancing right now. She's kind of, we may be feeling a little bit of grief about, where we're at the moment. Oh, let's talk about opening countries up. Well, the USA, it's, I won't go into all that. I'm actually going to go and talk about the moon a little bit, because we have a lot of aspects today on this, a lot of bigger aspects today, this Friday, but tomorrow we have more lunar aspects. The moon will come in, the moon early tomorrow morning. So I've talked about Mercury, Venus, Mars yet. So about 12:46 a.m. tomorrow for it's on the 18th. We have the moon in Pisces over there in a sextile aspect to Uranus. And that's kind of like awakening kind of energy and really kind of disturbed, edgy kind of thing. Pisces likes to be in surrender and flow and dream world, and Uranus is likely to kind of bring the little surprises in this in that dream world. And then later in the day, about 12 hours later, the moon in Pisces will actually square. So square Venus, there we go. Okay, now this is a very interesting aspect when the moon squares Venus, because the moon will be at the position Mercury was at when Mercury went retrograde in the recent retrograde. Ceres is at the position she is going to be at when she stations direct, but the moon is at the position that she will turn retrograde at, because Ceres is going to follow the exact same path that Mercury followed for her retrograde. But even more importantly, the moon is squaring Venus over here in Gemini, and Venus in Gemini is just shy of the degree where she's going to meet the sun in the middle of her retrograde. And I'll be going into huge detail about that in my Venus retrograde class, which I'll put a link to below in the YouTube. But and you know, this Venus class is my kind of signature piece. It's life-changing. But this, what happens this weekend, so this is in the middle of the day, Saturday for us in Utah, will kind of give some foreshadowing of the themes and feelings of this Venus retrograde, also harking back to the Mercury retrograde. And it's a 12-degree mark that is being triggered over and over and over and over and over again this year. Very heightened. It's in mutable signs, so it's about bringing change. It's really kind of a crucial degree. So pay attention to what this is. And in terms of planetary cycles, the moon is heading towards Venus. So when the moon hits Venus, it'll kind of be a new moon. So this is a closing square, it's called, because the moon is moving towards Venus to that conjunction. And so it's a time where we're releasing, we're shedding, we're letting go. Venus is our values. In Gemini, it's about how we relate and communicate to others. So we can see there's a lot of relationship coming up over this weekend, and it doesn't just mean your main relationships, I have to add, it's kind of all your relationships. Then we hit the waning crescent moon. The moon is moving to the very last part of the cycle before new moon, which will be on the 23rd. And at 10 p.m. on Saturday-ish, so I'm going to go to that, or a bit before, Mercury will actually sextile. So Mercury again will actually make that exact sextile to Mars. So it's still in aspect to Venus. The moon has triggered Venus. Mars is also moving towards Venus. It's going to take quite a long time to get there because Mars goes retrograde later in the year. we've got all this stuff moving towards Venus, and Venus is entering one of the most important periods in her cycle, the retrograde cycle, which I call a journey into your own personal underworld. It's a journey through the chakras. It aligns with Inanna's journey into the underworld, where she met her sister, which is her shadow self, Erishkigal, and she shed all the kind of trappings of the outer world, all the materialism and all that kind of thing. And I feel like we're being asked to do that already. I think it's going to intensify. But that's happening this weekend. So all these things are going to kind of go, well, this is what's coming. This is what's coming. This is what we have to start planning for. This is what we just have to start thinking about. But the Mercury aspect to Mars will kind of finish up that aspect, because Mercury is moving faster. And it will give us some ideas about where we've got to take action in Aquarius for humanity, and so on and so forth. And then the overnight on Saturday night, one of my favorite dream aspects is the moon. The moon will conjunct Neptune overnight. Happens every month, especially when it's been in Pisces for the last few years. It's like one of the most intense dream aspects ever. So, even leading up to it, so even for all of us, even in Australia, think about what your dreams were, because they're going to be intense. And then on in the morning of Sunday, we have a rather big shift, because we have Taurus season begins. The sun moves into Taurus, out of Aries. Now, we always feel the shift of the seasons. Aries is the first sign of the astrological zodiac. In the Northern Hemisphere, it indicates the spring, new beginnings, but it's a beginning of a new season anyway. In the South, it's beginning of the fall, autumn. But when the sun enters Taurus, it's often a time of seeding and planting and getting rooted, and real creativity, no matter which hemisphere you're in. So we're going to have that massive shift. So it'll be happy birthday to Taurus for sure. It's your time of year, and we'll talk more about that as we go. But almost immediately, the sun begins to square to Saturn. So we're going to feel a big, more solidifying, more grounding. I'm not saying that the situation will settle down, but I do think how we feel about what's going on in the world will start to really calm down a little bit. Okay. But almost immediately, pretty much after in astrological terms, after the sun enters Taurus, the moon will go on a short void, and then I'm going to move it forward. We'll enter Aries. So the sun leaves Aries, the moon enters Aries, and that's very early on Monday morning. But we should all wake up on Monday morning with this kind of feeling of a fresh start, feeling like things have shifted. We can really get down to work, get moving. Things have been a bit hard to focus lately, especially with this situation. And so that will be nice. And then the moon will automatically aspect Saturn, bringing that drive and real kind of push to get things done. And that's at 4:15 a.m. on Monday morning. So, we're having some quite nice aspects this weekend. There's talk of opening things up. And some people think that's a good idea, some don't. Who knows, really? I'm not convinced, but we'll see. For now, it might be the right thing to do, but I kind of think we're going to be closing down again later because of the astrology of how things are coming up. We've got the second of 5 exact Pluto Eris squares coming up in June the 12th. And I kind of think all this loosening off will bring it back again, but we'll see. Maybe not. But anyway, that's for this weekend. And don't forget to check out my Venus class. It's I love it. It's the best thing ever. So I'll put the link in the YouTube description or on Facebook in the description. So check it out and join us. So much love.